Why does it feel like Jungkook has changed, even though no one can fully explain how? What are fans sensing in those quiet moments? And why is this unspoken shift becoming impossible to ignore? Stay until the end and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as we explore a transformation that can be felt, but not easily described. What if the most powerful change is the one that is never announced? What if the moment that altered everything didn't come with words, but with silence? And what if the reason so many people feel it is because it was never meant to be explained, only experienced? Before you move on, pause for a second. Have you felt it too? Not something you can point to directly, not something you can clearly define, but something subtle, something different, something that lingers just beneath the surface whenever you watch Jungkook now. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Everything looked the same presence, the same energy, the same familiarity that people had grown used to over time. If anything, it felt consistent, almost predictable in the way it aligned with what people expected. But then something began to shift. Not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly. So quietly that it almost went unnoticed. A slight change in the way he held himself. A different kind of stillness in moments that once felt more fluid. An expression that seemed to carry something deeper, something more internal. Something that didn't need to be spoken to be felt. And for a while it remained just that, a feeling. Something unconfirmed, something unspoken, something that existed in the background, subtle enough to be ignored, but persistent enough to remain, until people began to notice. Not all at once, not in the same way, but gradually, individually, until that quiet realization began to spread. Because when enough people feel the same thing, even without discussing it, it becomes something real. Something that exists beyond explanation. Something that connects individuals through a shared sense of awareness. There is something uniquely powerful about that kind of connection, because it doesn't rely on facts. It exists in perception, in emotion, in the way something resonates without needing to be fully understood. And that is exactly what is happening here. The transformation is not defined by a single moment. It is not tied to one specific event. It is something that has unfolded over time, gradually becoming more noticeable as people begin to look closer, feel deeper, and pay attention to the subtleties that were once overlooked. There is also something important about the silence itself. Because in a world where everything is often explained, announced, and defined, silence creates space. It allows interpretation. It invites reflection. It encourages people to engage not just with what is visible, but with what is felt. And within that silence, the transformation takes shape, not as something obvious, but as something undeniable. Presence that feels different. A shift that cannot be ignored once it is noticed. And that is what makes it so compelling, because it does not demand attention. It earns it. Through subtlety, through consistency, through the quiet accumulation of moments that on their own might seem insignificant, but together create something that feels meaningful. There is also an emotional depth that continues to grow as this awareness spreads. Because recognizing change in someone you have watched over time is not neutral. It carries a sense of reflection, a recognition that something has evolved, that something internal may have shifted in ways that are not fully visible, but still deeply present. And that realization creates a connection, not based on explanation, but based on understanding. A quiet understanding that something real is happening, even if it cannot be fully described. This is why the transformation feels so significant. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is authentic. Because it reflects something genuine, something that cannot be staged or replicated, something that exists beyond performance and beyond expectation. And that authenticity is what resonates, because people respond to what feels real, even when they cannot fully explain why. There is also a growing sense that this transformation is not something that needs to be solved or defined, that it is not a mystery to be unraveled, but an experience to be acknowledged. Because not everything meaningful comes with clear answers. Some things exist simply to be felt, to be recognized, to be understood in a way that goes beyond words. And this feels like one of those things. A transformation that is quiet, but powerful. Subtle but undeniable. Unspoken but deeply felt. As time goes on, this awareness will likely continue to evolve. More people will notice. More people will feel it. More people will try to understand what it means. But the essence of it will remain the same. A change that was never announced. A shift that was never explained. A transformation that exists not in words, but in presence. And perhaps that is what makes it unforgettable. Not the details that can be pointed out, but the feeling that stays. The quiet sense that something has changed in a way that cannot be reversed. The awareness that what is being seen now is not exactly what was seen before. And that difference, however subtle, is enough to reshape everything. So if you have felt it too, if you have noticed that quiet shift, if you have recognized that something is different even without being able to explain it, then you are part of this story. A story that does not rely on answers. A story that continues through perception, through emotion. Because sometimes the most powerful transformations are not the ones that are spoken, but the ones that are silently understood. And as that silent understanding continues to settle into the way people perceive him, something even more subtle begins to take shape. A realization that the transformation is not something separate from who he is, but something that has become part of how he exists in every moment now. It is no longer confined to specific instances or particular expressions. It is woven into the overall presence that Jungkook carries, quietly but unmistakably. There is a difference in the way attention lingers. Not because something dramatic demands it, but because something subtle holds it. A kind of stillness that feels intentional, even if it is not consciously recognized. A sense of focus that seems deeper, more inward, as if there is something being processed beneath the surface that does not need to be expressed outwardly to be real. And that quiet depth is what people are responding to, because it feels layered, feels complex, feels like there is more than what can be immediately seen. This is where the perception of change becomes something more than observation. It becomes interpretation. Not in the sense of trying to define what is happening, but in the sense of engaging with it on a level that goes beyond surface understanding. People begin to connect what they see now with what they remember before, noticing contrasts that are not extreme but meaningful. A softer expression where there was once more intensity, or perhaps a deeper intensity where there was once more lightness. Not better, not worse, just different. And that difference is enough to create awareness. There is also a growing sense that this transformation is not linear. It does not follow a simple path from one state to another. Instead, it feels layered, as if different aspects of who he is are becoming more visible at different times, revealing a complexity that was always there but not always noticed. And that complexity adds depth to every moment. Because now, each appearance carries more than just what is happening in that specific instant. It carries a sense of continuity, a connection to something ongoing, something evolving. And that evolution is what people are feeling, even if they cannot fully describe it. There is also something about the quiet nature of this transformation that makes it more impactful. Because without clear explanations or defined narratives, people are left to engage with it in their own way.